Let's go back to high school for a moment. You ever see a situation when you were in high school where the two most popular girls in school, they're like best friends, and then suddenly something happens where maybe one of them steals the other one's boyfriend, maybe somebody likes somebody, and now there's a big fight, and there's all this drama in between the two most popular girls in school. And suddenly, all the little less popular kids are now having to pick a side. Whose side are you on in this situation? All the guys are, and now the whole school's like divided, and it's like, whose side are you on? We got the two most popular kids in school now, and you got to pick one side or the other. We have this exact same situation that plays all out across high schools across the United States every year. We have this now playing out in the real world. The United States and China are now in a war, an economic war. Now at this point in time, the economic war has been declared. The United States is now trying to essentially, let's call it, isolate China from the rest of the world. And now they're looking around and they're saying, who's going to be our friends? Don't be their friend over there, okay? Now, as they say, when trade stops, wars start. And this gets to a very serious matter, especially with situations like China and Taiwan, and much of the semiconductor manufacturing being done in Taiwan. And people are worrying now, with more and more escalation in this economic war, could we actually be talking about real war coming now at this point in time, now that we have an actual economic war ongoing? Meanwhile, you have the most talked about, most important stock in the stock market of 2023 and 2024, nvidia, now down over 23% in the past 6 months, including another 7% drop here today. Other folks are looking at the market and they're saying, have we even really bottomed this market yet? Or do we have a lot lower to go? Is this just a fake out rally in this situation? There's three core subjects we're going to get into here today in this video. How do I see this economic war playing out? Very important we discuss that. And I'm going to show you timeline-wise on how I'm expecting all this to go, essentially. Okay, because there's multiple things that have come out that went on the DL in the past 12 hours that are extremely important if you want to know how this war is going to play out. 2, have we hit a real bottom on the stock market or not? We're going to discuss that, okay? 3, I bought $30,000 worth of stocks 15 minutes before the close here today. I'm going to show you what I bought and why I went ahead and bought it. There's one thing and one thing only I need from you guys in this video here today, and it's for you to do what the sign in my garage says. Smash that like button for me, please. I hope you guys appreciate this one. This video took a lot of time and attention to put in for this one here today. I want to make sure I put out a great video for you guys here on the main channel discussing some very important subjects I know people want me to discuss. So that's all I need from you guys. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. That's it, okay? Alrighty. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Okay. Listen, before we get into all of this, I have to say rest in peace, Elaine Wynn. She did just pass on here very recently. I was driving by the Strip last night and I'm like, why are all the, I live in Las Vegas, obviously, right? That's my city. I've lived out here for 10 years. And although I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for several years, Vegas is my city. Like, this is where this is like my place, right? And, the whole Strip was dim last night. And I'm like, did the whole Strip forget to pay their electric bills? Like, did we get tariffed? What's going on here? Well, the whole Strip, the entire Strip, all dim their buildings or shut their lights off essentially for the night. And all on their massive digital billboards all put Elaine Wynn's picture, which is just shows you the power of the Wynn family in Vegas. That, I mean, I'm talking on the Raider Stadium. Her face was up there, showing the years she was alive. And the Sphere did it, like everybody did it. Every casino, it was incredible, right? The Wynns moved out to Vegas with very little money, and obviously they built a massive fortune of many billions of dollars. So yeah, rest in peace, Elaine Wynn. Obviously very influential individual, and man, just crazy. And I know the subject's going to come up because Wynn's a stock I talk about, and I'm wearing the Wynn hat today out of respect for the Wynn family. But where's that company go from here? I think they're in still a really good place, even though Steve has nothing to do with the company now. Elaine Wynn's passed. Linda Chen runs Wynn Macau. She's one of the most important people in Wynn's history, and obviously somebody that's helped out Steve Wynn over the years immensely. Craig Billings has done a phenomenal job running the company so far. Tillman Fertitta has been buying the stock left and right. He now owns, from my understanding, over 12% of the company. Tillman Fertitta, very influential individual, multi-billionaire. I believe he has around a $10 billion net worth, owns the Houston Rockets, owns Landry's, a bunch of high-end restaurants across the United States. Also, his cousins are Frank Fertitta and Lorenzo Fertitta. Lorenzo Fertitta, is basically the chairman of Fertitta Capital and the director of Red Rock Resorts, and was the former CEO of the UFC. And then Frank Fertitta, he's the CEO of Stations Casino. So yeah, I think Wynn's in good hands, okay? Alrighty, so how do I see this war playing out? Alrighty, here's the situation, right? This comes out last night. U.S. announces 245% tariff on China, right? People are making memes, China. We don't even know what's real and not real at this point in time, right? We know 145%, 125%, but at this point in time, new numbers are coming out. There's new press releases. There's 245% numbers being floated out there. It seems like even the White House doesn't know what's going on. The moral of the story is, in regards to this whole situation, is it's just completely out of control. It's completely out of hand right now. And it's just getting, to be ridiculous, right? People are seeing stuff like that. And this is just ridiculous, man. When's this ever going to end? This is insane, right? Now, the playbook Trump's actually using here is not an original playbook that no one's ever used. The United States, we've used this playbook before in other types of wars, like wars in which, people die in, right? Like actual violent wars, right? And we even used this playbook in Japan, because there was a lot of people that have always wondered, did we give any sort of big warning to the Japanese citizens before we obviously launched the nukes on them? And, the moral of the story is not really, right? And so we're kind of doing that playbook of we're just crazy, we're just going to announce it, right? If we go to 245% tariffs, 1,000% tariffs, boom, we're just going to drop it on you, right? And so this is a playbook that has played out in the past, right? Now, this economic war doesn't just involve U.S. and China. Because it involves the two most popular kids in school, it's now involving everybody, as what happened in World War II. If you look at World War II, by the time you got deep into World War II, basically everybody was involved. It was impossible to not be involved to at least a certain extent into World War II, right? It wasn't like it was just one country versus another. No. By the end of it, everybody was involved. And that's what we have going on in this economic war, where you look at every single country is now involved. There's no way out of this. You're in, and now you're going to have to try to figure out, do you want to side with the United States more? Do you want to side with China more? Do you want to try to play it in between, which is a tough place to play right now? And so, it's kind of like World War II had the allies and had the Axis powers, right? It seems like we're going into that exact type of situation, but on an economic front now, where you're going to have certain sides together and certain other sides together, right? Very, very fascinating. Now, it's very important you understand, no one wins a war. It is true, there are degrees of loss, but no one wins. And I 100% agree with that. There's no one's going to win this economic war that's going on right now. Everybody loses. Now, some people are going to lose worse than others. But whenever you have a war, there's no actual winner. You go into every war thinking you're going to be the big winner chicken dinner. We're going to win this war. It's going to be great. But in the reality, even when it all ends, even when you win, you don't actually win. And that's been throughout history, right? And I can show you an example of that. World War II, right? Everybody views the United States won World War II, right? And you can say, yeah, we won World War II, right? Because at the end of the day, but what did we actually win? And I think that's very important. What did we actually win winning World War II? We got more influence for generations to go in the future. So instead of German influence, Japanese influence, we got to have our United States influence for the last many, many generations, right? And more influence than we certainly ever had ever before, right? The Western, world, right? But what did we lose for that influence that we had for the last several generations? Well, we lost a lot. We lost millions of lives, right? Not only in World War II, but you think about all the wars we had to do ever since because of this number two thing. Ever since World War II, now the United States had to become the police officer of the world. And still to this day, if anything happens around the world, everybody starts looking at the United States and they say, are you going to send some weapons to help this country? You're going to send some troops? What are you going to do? So ever since World War II, now the United States got put in this position where we're the world's police officer, right? And you can't get out of it. Once you're the world's police officer, you got to stay in it. There's no way out once you get in. We've spent trillions and trillions of dollars on defense over the last number of decades. That's put us into ridiculous levels of debt, where our federal debt now is somewhere around $37 trillion, and it's on its way to $50 trillion, and then $100 trillion of debt, right? And a lot of that's gone to defense budgets over the years. The country, right, where we always have to be remembered as a country that killed massive amounts of innocent people, which is not a pleasant thing to be remembered as of in modern times, right? Like, if somebody had, killed massive amounts of innocent people, 500 years ago, people say whatever, but when it happened in, the 40s, it's not the best look, right? And we had to help rebuild the entire world because the world was in shambles, especially much of Europe was in shambles. It was a complete mess after World War II, and we had to help rebuild that, right? And so we got much more influence for generations to come. We won that, but we lost a lot in the end. And that's exactly what happens in an economic war as well. You might win something, but you're going to lose a lot. And it's not like you lose a lot for a small amount of time. You lose a lot for a long time. These things I just ran you through here, right? When you think about having to be the world's police officer and how many American lives have had to, go throughout all the battles ever since World War II and been lost, and all the trillions of dollars we spend, is a lot you have to give up for that influence, right? Now, it's very important that we solve this economic war ASAP, because if we don't, it will get out of control and we will have a 5 to 10 year economic war ahead, and it's going to get much uglier than what you're seeing now. So it's very important that we clean this up in 2025 and we don't take this into 26 and 27 and 28 and 29. You got to get past this stage, or you'll end up in like a World War II situation where it lasts, a long, long time, and it's a very ugly situation. Now, we have some actual developments here that I don't think they're getting talked about enough that are actual positives, okay? I know. That's weird. I read the Times of India, but I also read Chinese publications and U.S. publications and European publications, okay? I never want to just fall into anybody's propaganda of one country trying to form my mindset. So I read everybody, okay? But here it is out of the Times of India. Ball is in their court on tariffs. White House says Donald Trump is open to deal with China, right? He's open to a deal. Ball's in their court. That's a positive. That's more positive than I've seen it certainly in the last number of weeks, where it seemed like for a while the White House was trying to put out this kind of this presence of we don't even care if you do a deal, where these tariffs are on you regardless. There's no choice. Now opening that door, Donald Trump's open to a deal with China. Okay, that's a big step in the right direction. Big step in the right direction. We also got something that went a little back page 12 hours ago. China open to talks if U.S. shows respect and names a point person to deal with, right? Listen, that's a huge positive. That's a huge positive. And, the Chinese, respect matters a lot to those folks, right? And I've got to be honest with you, Trump has not shown a lot of respect to the Chinese. He is not. So if he starts showing some respect, right, and we can get a point person and somebody to actually start doing some talks, boom. This is positive developments. Positive developments to get this crap figured out before it gets completely out of control, because it's already getting out of control. It's just how much are we going to go? Then we're going to talk about 300% tariffs. Why not do 1,000%? No, let's go 2,000%. Let's go 10,000%. And then all of a sudden you get to such a level where all of a sudden the Chinese say no American companies are allowed to sell anything in China. Get it all off the shelves. That's the sort of place you start going, right? And then America says no Chinese products are going to be let in the United States at all. Not one Chinese product. If it's made in China, we can't let it in. Good luck with us on doing that, right? But that's how serious it can get as time ticks on, and it just tick for tack, and it's a mess, right? But this is positive. This is positive, okay? Now, this whole notion about the United States made everybody rich and we're poor because of it, it's such a bunch of BS. And at the end of the day, I believe the Trump administration realizes it's such a bunch of BS. I understand we're going to try to negotiate off of that premise of we've made everybody rich, we're poor. But at the end of the day, you really break it down. Would the United States trade places with anyone else? And the answer is absolutely not. Would we trade places with China? Nope. Would we trade places with Russia? Nope. What about Australia? What about Brazil? What about India? What about Germany? What about the UK? What about France? Of course we wouldn't. We wouldn't trade places with anybody else as a country. So that notion of like, we made everybody rich, everybody's so rich now, we're so poor, it's just a bunch of baloney, right? It's a great for a negotiation talking point of like, putting this out there. But when you really break it down, it's just not true. It's just not true at all, right? And so at the end of the day, when you come back to that premise, you realize like deals have to be made. The Chinese own a ton of our treasuries, right? Their economy is still very dependent upon our economy and vice versa, right? And so at the end of the day, hopefully cooler heads will prevail in this. And so what are my thoughts about how this is going to play out? Here's how I think it's going to play out timeline-wise. I think early talks between the U.S. and China are going to happen in May. So I think we're going to start to have a little more positive, and then there's going to be some sort of announcement that comes out around, some key individuals for the U.S. and some key individuals of China are going to meet and talk things out. Maybe they're going to meet at a neutral place. Maybe they're going to talk on a Zoom call. I don't know. Okay. But the moral of the story is like early talks will start in May. That's my personal opinion on that. Then in May, we're also going to start to do some deals with some other countries, some smaller countries, some larger countries, some deals will start to be done, right? And then what I think is going to happen is in either June or July, I think Trump's going to have a big day. I think he's going to call it America's Back Day, okay, instead of Liberation Day. I don't know. It's going to be something like that. It's going to slogan it, okay? America's back, baby. And I think in that particular day, it's going to be a big day where all these deals are announced with a ton of different countries. And here's how the U.S. is benefiting. This country allowed us to do this. This country's allowing us to do this, blah, blah, blah. Go through it all, right? And obviously the Trump administration is going to pitch it as like a big win, and maybe it is a big win, but they're going to pitch it as a big win, certainly, right? And so it's going to be a whole big thing that's publicized. And even as you lead up to that day, the market will already be, bouncing huge at that particular time because you know how this is. Like the market's always kind of playing the future. So as soon as a day like that's announced and we got all these deals coming and it's going to be a massive thing because I don't think the Trump administration is just going to do all these deals in the DL and just leave it there. I think they're going to want to make a big announcement to the whole world, to the whole United States about we got all this coming, we got all these announcements and things like that, right? So that's how I think things are going to play out timeline-wise, and we'll see, okay? Now, have we hit a real bottom on the market, right? And then we'll get into $30,000 of stocks I bought 15 minutes before the market closed and why you went ahead and did that, right? Well, so first off, you got to understand we're up quite a bit from the bottom already. And that goes for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, that goes for the S&P 500, that goes for the NASDAQ, that goes for the Russell 2000. We're up quite a bit from the bottom. But with that being said, we're still down a lot just from where we were a few weeks ago, right? You go back 8 weeks ago or so, right? The Dow's down 11% since then. S&P 500's down about 14% since then. The NASDAQ's down over 17% since then. And the Russell 2000's down over 18% since then, right? So all the markets have still been hit, but they're up quite a bit from the bottom. That's an important thing to understand. Now, what I'm showing you here is 2020. And the reason I wanted to show you this is I want to show you after you've gone through a major correction or crash in the market, is it just a straight line up? Or do you have time periods when people start to doubt the rally and think like, oh, we're going back to newer, lower lows? Well, in 2020, we had that. At first, we had an initial boom, and then we had actually the market start to fall. And people started saying, look at this. The market's going right back down. People thought the market was good. No. We're going to go down and form new lower lows. That March bounce into earlier April was crazy. Nope, we're going right back down. Well, we went down, but we never hit a lower low. And then we started to bounce back again. And then we had another downfall of the market. And people said, see, I told you, like, we're going to go down and form new lower lows. The new lower lows never came. And market bounced. Then we had another big drop. People said, new lower lows? Nope. New lower lows were never hit. So even when you're coming out of a major correction or crash in the market, you have these time periods where essentially the market will start to go back down and people start to assume we're going to new lower lows and we haven't actually hit the lows in the market yet, right? I'm showing you now, I keep bringing this year back to 2018 because it reminds me a lot of 2018. Like this year's reminded me the most of 2018 of any year I've ever been in the market other than 2018. And in early 2018, the market fell quite substantially at the beginning of the year. And essentially you had several time periods over the next 12-week span where the market would go down, but it would never hit a new lower low. It would go down, but never hit a new lower low. It would go down, but never hit a new lower low. And as you went along, there were some just epic rallies. And you just get an epic rally and then a pullback, but it would never hit a new lower low. And so basically you had, 5 moments of hope in a 12-week span for the short sellers. The shorts had 5 moments of hope. And this happens continuously. If you look back at basically every major correction, every crash in the market, you get these time periods where the market will skyrocket higher and then it'll give back a ton of the gains. And the short sellers say, see, told you, we haven't hit the lowest lows yet, right? And it never gets down there. It starts skyrocketing back up. And then they get hope again because then another fall happens. But it continues to just make a new higher high in new higher lows, okay? And so just understand, whenever you're coming out of a major correction or crash in the market, it doesn't go straight up. It doesn't go straight up. You're going to have some weeks that are ugly, some months that are ugly. But at the end of the day, what's the trend? The trend is your friend, right? Now, we have hit the bottom of the market unless you get a new black swan event, which is always a potential, right? If you get a new black swan event happens, China goes in to invade Taiwan, right? Oh my gosh, what a mess that would be. Black swan event, right? Massive confirmed recession or something, huge black swan event, like some, I don't know, Bank of America goes under. Not happening, but let's just say it happened. Okay, black swan event. Like something just crazy, you can always get the market to go lower, but that's not so realistic, and you can't count on black swan events happening and get the market lower. That's just a pure gamble, right? And I'll show you like this. Public account's $2.5 million, right? It was a $3 million plus portfolio 6 or 7 weeks ago. This was also a $200,000 portfolio 6 to 7 years ago, right? You cannot be scared of black swan events to be a good investor in the market. If a black swan event comes and your portfolio goes down short term because a black swan event came, something no one saw coming, that's fine. That's part of the process of being an investor. You have to just completely disregard those in order to be a good investor. And I'll put it to you like this. I played Pop Warner, right? Before I played high school football. And I remember my Pop Warner coach, he told us all, he said, you can't be scared of getting hurt out here. You gotta play and just play. Don't worry about getting hurt. Don't worry about getting injured. You gotta play, right? And in tackle football, in youth football, right? You have 3 types of people on a team. You have the P words. The P words are scared to make a tackle, scared to do anything, scared they're going to get hurt, right? I'm not going to say what the P word is. You can fill in the blank there. You have what's called the crash outs. No, the P words never see the field because they're too scared. The crash outs also almost never see the field because they play too out of control that by the time it's week 1, they already got a broken arm, they got broken bones, and they're all messed up, and they can't run for crap anymore because they just completely play out of control, right? And then you have the people that are what I call the in-betweens. They're not the P words, they're not the crash outs. They're just good, solid football players that come up and lay a hit when they need to lay a hit, right? But here's the thing. If I took out that word youth football and I say in the money game, you have the P words, the crash outs, the in-betweens, it's the same exact thing. The P words in the money game, they never live the life they want. They never have the homes they want. They never drive the cars they want in their life. They never have the retirement they want. They never travel the way they want. They never eat at the type of restaurants they want. They never have their kids go to the whatever schools they wanted their kids to go to or grow up in. None of that ever ends up happening because they play too scared. They're too scared of losing money and a black swan event comes, things like that, right? Then you have the crash outs. The crash outs are people that are broke forever because they're just always just treating their investments as gambles, right? And they're just like, these are people that in a bear market, the rest of us go down our portfolios 20 to 40%, depending upon how bad the bear market is. The crash outs, they go down like 90% on their portfolios, 100% of their portfolios. They lose it all because they're just doing crazy stuff, playing call options, things like that, right? And then you get the in-betweens, that they're not the P words, they're not the crash outs, and that's what we call the 1%. Those are the wealthiest people in the world. They're the ones that get the richest because they understand how to take risk, but they don't play completely out of control. And so they're able to make it through the bear markets and they're able to thrive in the bull markets, right? The crash outs, unfortunately, because they lose everything in the bear markets, they're never even able to get into the bull markets, right? And the P words, they never participate in anything, so they just sit on the bench all the time, right? You want to be the 1%, right? And that's what I teach inside my private stock group. If you go through all those course curriculums, I teach everybody how to be the in-betweens, right? My private Discord chat, That's what we do, and that's pinned comment down there if you want to apply to join us. Like, we've had so many people go through the private group and reach 6 figures, 7 figures plus in their portfolios, right? These are some recent photos of some of our members hitting new milestones in their portfolios. It's incredible to see, right? Incredible to see. And so, look at this one, Palantir. I love that one, right? And this one's my favorite. I own the company. I don't even have a hoodie that cool. I don't understand. This man got a 1000X hoodie. Like, that's sick. Good for him. Epic hoodie. Well done, sir. Holy smokes, that's no joke. This is my best hoodie I have for 1000X, is Nike and 1000X hoodie. But anyways, if you're ready to take investing up to a much higher level than where you're at, be an in-between, get serious about building your wealth, pin comment down there. You can click on that, fill out a form, get you access to all my best course curriculums, private Discord chat with myself and all the members, right? Access to the stocks I'm buying and selling each week, 1000xstocks.com, all that good stuff, okay? Alrighty, folks. Next up here, we got to talk about the stocks I bought, why I bought them, right? And why was I buying out there today? Well, today was a great day to be a buyer. It was a great day. Like, you know, the NASDAQ was down like 4%. You know, we had one of those days where a lot of fear in the market again. VIX was popping huge, right? A lot of fear about China, Trump, tariffs, blah, 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 right? And so it was a good day to be a buyer. That's all I can say about that. It was a good day to be a buyer. Not the best day to be a buyer. That was about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now at this point in time, when we were hitting those low lows, right? And there was just, you know, we saw fear and greed index go to, what was it, 4? That was the most insane time to be a buyer, right? But a day like today was a very good day to be a buyer. So I went ahead and I put $30,000 into one of my portfolios and went ahead and bought, okay? And so what did I go ahead and buy? Well, I went ahead and bought, first up here, AMD. 111 shares of AMD. I paid $86.86 for those AMD shares. Keep in mind, AMD is quite a bit off the lows. It was just a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. AMD did get all the way into the 70s at that particular time. So, but still, in the 80s, I love AMD. I will probably produce a big dog video on AMD here on the main channel or on the reaction channel, likely in the next 24 to 48 hours. So do keep an eye on that if you care anything about AMD. That's going to be a beast video going very in depth in regards to AMD and the opportunity there, okay? Amazon, amazing Zon. I bought 55 shares of Amazon here today, paid $172.73 for those. That's a $9,500 move. Amazon, you know, there's a stock I bought a lot cheaper in the past, but at the end of the day, $172 for Amazon is a steal deal, right? You know, Amazon has very little exposure even to the Chinese market, you know, like very little exposure. And so all this worries about economic slowdowns, that comes and goes. Like at the end of the day, Amazon's set up for the next 10, 20 years. So everybody's worried about the next 10, 20 weeks. I'm thinking about the next 10, 20 years. I don't care if Amazon does a little better sales numbers, a little worse sales numbers for the next 10 to 20 weeks. It means nothing to me as a long-term investor. Nothing. What I do care about is Amazon's next 10 to 20 years. And Amazon for the next 10 to 20 years looks absolutely amazing. Between their e-commerce business, which is just going to grow, between the AWS business, which is going to grow, and their advertising business, that's just going to grow, right? Beautiful, beautiful company and an insane opportunity here. So Amazon, bought Amazon. And then I bought 220 shares of Elf Beauty, paid $49.92 for those shares, about $11,000 move there. You know, Elf's got the next 10 years on lock. You know, the next 10 weeks, who knows what happens to Elf? The tariff drama, who knows if the tariffs get removed or stay on or what Trump's going to do or the deal, whatever. Elf's got the next 10 years on lock. The next 10 weeks, I don't care. If Elf goes to $22, I don't care. I'll buy more shares. If Elf goes to 32, it's all irrelevant. My opinion is Elf over the next several years will be a $200+ stock again. And so whatever happens to Elf in the next 10 weeks is irrelevant to me. The moral of the story is I'm getting an insane deal on Elf today, and I'll gladly buy those shares. And so I'll let the rest be what the rest is going to be, right? As a long-term investor, and that's how I grew a massive net worth. Just focus on long term, man. You know what I mean? Like, you just got to focus on the long term. You get these corrections in the market, crashes in the market. Everybody's just freaked out in the short term. And you as an investor just got to step in those hard times. That's where the most money's made. You go back to every major correction or crash in the market in history, the most money is made for the people that were buying during that major correction or crash. It's just factual. It's not an opinion. It's factual. It's mathematic based. And so here we are in another one. And the people that will be the buyers will make the most money coming out of this over the next several years. And people will look at us and they'll say, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You were buying back then. And it's like, okay, was it luck? Or was it not being a P word, right? And not being a crash out? You got to ask yourself that, right? It's earnings season, folks. It is officially here. Netflix is doing their earnings tomorrow. And then we got just a gauntlet of earnings for the next 3 weeks. And so focus on long term, even in these earnings seasons, and look at all these companies' numbers, view them all over. And obviously, I'm going to be covering it all here on the channel, in the reaction channel. Jeremy Lefebvre makes money for you guys. And obviously in my private stock group as well. But focus on the long term. You know, you got a lot of crap going on in the short term. That's going to continue to be that. Let it be what it's going to be. Stay focused on, you know, where your portfolio is going over the next 10 years. Where your portfolio is going over the next 10 weeks is irrelevant. Where your portfolio is going over the next 10 years, that matters a whole lot more to you, because that's going to matter a lot. That money 10 years from now is going to matter a lot. What happens in the next 10 weeks, who cares, okay? We'll cover it all, but it is what it is, okay? Appreciate y'all for joining me as always. If you're looking to take your investing game up to a much higher level, then you can apply to join my private stock group. Pin comment down there. Fill out a form. See if we can get you access to that maybe this weekend or maybe next week, okay? Alrighty, much love and have a great day.